Assalamu alaikum. I'm Malik Hodge, an injured warrior of the Midwest and a messenger of the covenant, representing the messenger of the covenant, the breaker of the seven seals, the self-taught one, Master Suleiman. Something's going on. Give me a second. Excuse me. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Malik Hodge, an injured warrior of the Midwest and a messenger of the covenant, representing the messenger of the covenant, the breaker of the seven seals, the self-taught one, Master Suleiman, who is giving us the Injil, the Gospel of Revelations, with the Injil key that gives us the understanding of the unsealed scriptures. This is Late Night Up Late with Malik Hodge, where we take current events and give the understanding from a unsealed scriptures perspective, from the perspective of the unsealed scriptures. This evening, tonight, we're going to go over a few current events, and let's go on and get started. We have reached a, excuse me, see how that's playing out. So we're going to start off with this Utah Great Salt Lake is drying out, threatening ecological and economic disaster. And I thought I'd start this off with this because the devastation and how much they have allowed this lake to dry out. So let's get right with it. Utah Salt Lake, Utah Great Salt Lake dropped to its lowest record level this month amid a two-decade drought, a grim milestone as researchers and politicians point to grave threats to wildlife and people along the receding shores. The nearby metropolis of Salt Lake City is already subject to dust storms that experts fear could get worse. To save the Great Salt Lake so that we don't become Dust Lake City is to make a conscious choice that the lake is valuable and that the lake needs to have water put into it, said atmosphere scientist Kevin Perry, who has biked across dried out lake beds since 2016 to study its composition. For years, waters that wouldn't otherwise end up in the lake have been diverted from human consumption, industry, and agriculture, combined with the ongoing drought, which has been exuberated by climate change that has exposed ever more lake bed. On July 3rd, the surface of the lake fell to the lowest level since records began in 1847 to an average of 4,190 feet, 1,277 meters above sea level. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, it is expected to decrease further until fall or early winter, when incoming water equals or exceeds evaporation. The lake contained little more than 1/4 the volume of water now as it did at its high point in 1987, USGS said. The lake has lost nearly half its surface area from the historic average, exposing some 800 square miles, 2,000 square kilometers of lake bed, and are larger than the Hawaiian islands of Maui. Now, just reading that, and taking it in over the things that were shared yesterday about the drought that was shared on the newscast last night about the droughts. But what stood out to me is that they're using and they're diverting water from certain areas to other places. And then they have an area bigger than 200, what is it? Let me get that. It said an area amount of (2,000 square foot of this lake bed had dried out. 2,000. And when you just think about it's bigger than the islands of Hawaii or Maui. And the bottom of the lake is blowing into the city, and the sulfite and things that are at the bottom of the water, and that starts to when dried out, it turns into these minerals and different things, sulfite and different elements, and it's blowing off into the city. But one thing that stood out is like, how could a situation from a lake that has is water for the people, water for agriculture, water for the animals, but for it to lose 2,000 square miles and something hasn't been done to rectify that, then, just looking on at the conditions that, this that America has caused to this planet. The things that were this area, the people, this country, this is how they treat um, they treat this the land, the things that is needed for their own um, livelihood. They have no respect for nature. So in that, it's like they have no respect for what's natural, what's nature. They look at it as it's nothing, and they move on and destroy, and it's destructive. Everywhere they go, they are destroying and destructive towards nature. They left Europe because the lands was barren and it wasn't producing. So they went out in search, and they didn't pillage the world of its natural resources. They made mischief and bloodshed everywhere they went. And it's several lakes dried up, animals numbers being brought to their lowest. It's things, the world, the planet fighting for its life, and they're talking about how they've known for years, over 100 years, how they were affecting the ecosystem, how they've been affecting. However, they have put nothing in motion to change what their effect on the world. And to say this is how you understand, how you can see that they do not care about this world. They only are in, always trying to make a trying to create cyborgs or robots. However, not concerned with keeping an order in nature that is sustainable to life. It's just something that I was looking at and wanted to speak on, because the size, 2,000 square foot of a lake, that now you can ride across it with a bicycle, and they're diverting the water. That's what they do. They got the Colorado River like that, diverting water everywhere. It's it's just something, and to see it and put it all together with why we have to get rid of this devil. We have to get him off the planet because he's a threat to the planet as much as he's a threat to the creator of the planet. He does his nature is to destroy, to be destructive. And to destroy, he doesn't regulate, he doesn't put it into his mind to preserve nature, because he's against nature. He's not they're not natural. They're not, and you can see this. They don't think about nature. They'll think about getting rid of nature and making something out of something technical, or a robot, or a cyborg, or something that is not natural. And then instead of, put something into motion to keep nature flowing in perfect order. So that we know, just a story that I wanted to go over. I wanted to touch on, because you want, in seeing all this drought and that's taking place, and how the storms, how nature is hitting them in all areas. It's tornadoes here, drought here, fires here, consistently hitting the country. And when you think on it, it's just another, that we know why it's happening. It's the pressure and the thought that is causing this. However, some of these things are called by consequence, because the things they do to the planet has to come alive and retaliate on what's taking place to it. So I just wanted to touch on that, due to it was a few, didn't have a lot of news to bring to you this evening. Not the main topic. So, in looking at the topics that was available, I decided to speak on that topic because of the devastation that you see that these people has caused to the planet. However, we're gonna move on to the topic that has been the most talked about topic I found all day long. The main talk of the day, the main conversation of the day is Biden's Middle East trip and how he's been ridiculed about the fist bump that he gave the crown prince. Um, and they are speaking out. He had people speaking out against um, why he softened up on the crown prince, and about the journalist. What's his name? Give me a second. The journalist. Um, Jamal Khashoggi, and they saying that they got that they know from the I guess from the investigation that the crown prince had ordered this journalist's death because he was investigating the royal family. And some claim that by him waking up, you didn't stick to your guns when you got there. You didn't question him, and it makes you think at all times. See, they will question Biden on this Khashoggi's death. However, and talking about on behalf of freedom of speech and I'll think on it. However, in the same sentence, the day before, while he was in Palestine, so they made a big issue about it because it's the crown prince. But at the same question that was mumbled over was about what's her name? Shireen Abu, a journalist that they know who was killed or assassinated by an Israeli bullet. So they didn't find it concerning to drill Biden on that murder. They didn't find it concerning Biden to ask the Prime Minister of Israel and question him about a journalist being killed. Excuse me. Pain. They didn't that wasn't a concern. But when it comes to the crown prince, they wanted Biden to, come out and say something that, can get him to move or say, get a response out of him. And Biden said, well, I asked him, and he said he didn't have nothing to do with it. He didn't even respond that way. I mean, he had nothing to say or didn't say anything on behalf of the Shireen Abu. But, like I said last night, and it's always a different response when it's about them and those that are with them, like false Israel, America, Britain, all these the ones that are in this union. When they do something like false Israel can bomb, assassinate, do all cross people's go in and out of people's countries and do as they please, killing people, terrorizing, bombing, but they're not terrorists when they do it. There's nothing wrong. They're in a shadow war, they say. They call what they do a shadow war. But when it's concerning someone outside of them that are doing the exact same thing that they are doing, they're terrorists. That's the bottom line. Anybody doing what America is doing, what false Israel is doing, what their allies are doing, then they're considered terrorists, and versus them being considered as they're in a shadow war. They're not terrorists for the same things that they're doing. It's always a double standard when dealing with these European nations. It's always a double standard, as if they shit don't stink. They wrongs are rights. Anybody else rights are wrong. That's the standard. And that's why we must get rid of them. But the thing is, Biden spoke on what Saudi Crown Prince is trying. His focus point was to get Saudi Arabia and other nations to produce more oil so that they can get the gas prices. He said to get the gas prices to decrease. And then Saudi Arabia has made a made a agreement. Well, they have showed they have he went Biden went to Saudi Arabia from false Israel, and said he would let them know that false Israel had their hands open for peace, and to they're openly allowing others to join with them. So Saudi Arabia is showing this interest of making peace and preparing for the future, or with making peace with with false Israel. And the goal that Biden was out to achieve was to get the Arab nations to these Arab nations that produce oil to see if they will produce more oil to get the prices down. So that was what was mostly spoke on today throughout, most news outlets, besides the other things, the insurrection, January 6th, and things that's taking place in Congress, Joe Biden and his, some Congress. However, Joe Biden said he's the first president to go straight from false Israel straight to Saudi Arabia, straight through. However, the thing that stands out the most in what's taking place, this trip in the Middle East was a trip where Joe Biden made a commitment to Israel with this what's it called, declaration, this Jerusalem declaration, to thwart Iran from becoming nuclear capability, through achieving nuclear capabilities. And it also outlined this union or alliance through this Abraham Accord that started with Donald Trump, started it, and Biden could finish it. That's what was shared. In this union, they've aligned these Arab countries with false Israel. And they also said something that you would, a couple of years ago, you would have never thought that this could happen. However, it's a reason behind why that's taking place. Why it's even being considered. And the majority of it is because these countries have joined false Israel and aim of taking out the Republic of Iran. So while looking at, looking at this story and knowing that they have agreed, Biden has made these decisions, made this declaration, and has sat down and was spoken to and said, does this mean, asked, does this mean that you're going to approve that war or military will be used to thwart or make Iran keep from producing nuclear weapons? So he said, I still think that diplomatic that this can be handled diplomatically. He still thinks that can happen. Then, they dug a little deeper and said, do that mean that what you're saying is, does that mean that you're willing to go to war if they don't agree to enter back into the JCPOA? And then he said, yes, military military actions will be carried out, and it's the last resort. It's the last resort. So, but military they will have a military response if Iran don't go back into the JCPOA. So, they drilled him on that, and that was something that he finally came out and shared. How this has affected everything that's taking place, and how it's affecting the scriptures from the scripture standpoint. This war that is defined by the JCPOA, by Iran being up under the foot of the nations, and by Iran going back up under the foot of the nations. The unsealed scriptures, the angel shares that's not going to take place. And as you see, it's been 2021, 2022, halfway through, and there still haven't been no recession to the JCPOA. They're not even really speaking. The cameras have been taken down. the inspectors can't see into the nuclear facility like they used to be able to do. They have not made any agreements or concessions whatsoever. And they're saying that Iran is already capable of producing one nuclear bomb. They just need a warhead or the device to put the enriched uranium in. So, what's there to stop? How do you stop someone from becoming nuclear capable if all they have to do is get the device and put the uranium in, set it up, get the whatever the setup is, and put it together? How easy is that when dealing with Russia that's nuclear capable, have nuclear scientists, have the know-how, and have the equipment and the warheads? China, they have the same thing. So you're thinking, how far this war is, how soon will this war erupt? It's going to be any day, because it's only days away, when even looking at it, to get back, either to say they're going to get back into the JCPOA, or how do you wait? What will cause you to stall when you saying that you're made a declaration to thwart Iran from acquiring nuclear capabilities? What else can be done in the next few days if Iran does exactly what the angel said? And you can see that they're doing it. They haven't got back in. They're not even, they talking about, America is still talking about, Joe Biden is still talking about getting them to talk or come back to the table to talk. However, the angel shares that the unsealed scriptures share that they're not doing any more talking. And this declaration of war has been made. Then you have the declaration of war, and then you have a friendship being built with Arab nations and false Israel in this same time period, that had the aim, all these nations' aim is the Republic of Iran. So their interest is to go against the Republic of Iran. So when you see this collaboration of Arab nations, Muslim nations going against another Muslim nation in cahoots with Satan or false Israel, the one that has been a thorn in the side of these nations, that have came and been set in a land and taken people's land up under a false claim, that no scriptures, no proof of anything, nothing ties them, or they can prove anything from the covenant of Abraham. Nothing that they went through, nothing, no facts, nothing that they can hold to can fit them or qualify them to have done anything that the scriptures shared. None. However, these nations that are turning their back on their Muslim brothers have to have a reason and have to know something that you don't know or that you are not aware of. So the unsealed scripture has always let us know that, or has shared with us through the Injil, that the house of Saad, the Ishmaelites, the reason why they've tried to get you into Sunniism and to let go, to get rid of the teachings from Master Prophet Muhammad, the God that Elijah brought, to get rid of the teachings from the messenger of the covenant that is bringing the understanding of the Abrahamic covenant to you, because it clearly states and let it be known what, who, and what the true seed of Abraham will go through, that they will be in a strange land for 400 years and be afflicted for 400 years. So we know just from that no one else can even fit the description but the black man and woman of America. So why are these nations aligning themselves with the enemy of Islam? Because it tells you that Abraham know of a surety that thy seed, that I will give thy seed the land, from this land, from the great river of Egypt to the great river Euphrates, which is the lands that these Arab nations, some of them sitting in, especially Saudi Arabia. So the Ishmaelites, you have to know what's taking place behind the scenes. How have they wronged you? Why are they your enemy? Why do they sit and try to get you to denounce the God that came for you? Why they try to tell you that that's not Islam, that Master Prophet Muhammad brought and raised up, gave us, sharing with us who we are, who they are, who the white man is, and sharing with us that we're the true seed of Abraham, that we're the tribe of Shabazz. Why? Because it will have to be something that'll cause them to accept and to go, to be willing to go to war for. And if you was going to displace them, what would you do? Would you go to war with your enemies? Because they have the nations together, have a aim and a reason behind collaborating, because they have a enemy that against, they have They have the same enemy that is a threat to them all. So, because of their livelihood, they have to and are willing to go to war with Satan. So you can see these things I gotta check my timing. Okay. You can see these things happening in the unsealed scriptures share with you that this will be taking place. And even the journalist is saying that not in a million years, a year ago, would you would have thought these Arab nations will be aligning themselves with false Israel. But you don't know what's behind all of this, the things that are unseen that will be brought to the light soon. The reason why false Israel was in Palestine, the reason behind it being set up after the interpretation that the messenger gave us, that we are the true seed of Abraham, and that we are the people that have been in slavery for 400 years. The things that can be proven, we are the people that were taken from the land. So after that, in 1948, when the state of Israel was brought about to try to deter or stop this interpretation, and Britain and America put false Israel there to derail or try to change this narration, who else assisted? Because these other nations had knowledge of what was taking place. They had knowledge and understanding of the interpretation that was being made. They had a reason behind and why they needed to change the narration, and they had a reason to try to keep the black man and woman from accepting their own. So much so they put a movement, a counterintelligence program, and a movement to get rid of the teachings of Master Fard Muhammad through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And they had almost, they was really working, but they forgot about the messenger of the covenant, the breaker of the seven seals, the one that came and revived and let us know of the covenant, the Abrahamic covenant, and how and what it meant to the black man and woman, and what it meant to the world. And the balance of the world is hung in this Abrahamic covenant. So this unsealed scriptures that the messenger of the covenant brought, the message of the angel, the gospel of Revelations, bringing us into the time of revealing all things, and revealing the unsealed scriptures, revealing what's going to take place, where we can see what's happening from start to finish of what we were to go through and why. Now, this war is a stepping stone. This JCPOA is a ignition. And we've been sharing that for the past few years. So this is what's the topic, the main thing to take from what's been shared by what's happening in this Middle East tour. The JCPOA is the ignition. It's not. They're not going back into the JCPOA. Let that be known. The unsealed scriptures say Iran is not going back into the JCPOA. So President Biden has signed a declaration that America is going to war to thwart off Iran to achieving their goals of nuclear capabilities. So, false Israel, they're right in line. They're saying that we have to go to war. America has now made an agreement, and Iran is not going to budge. So, then you have Vladimir Putin due to be in Iran this week. So this war is going to take place any moment, any day now. Any day. The abomination of desolation is the war that we're fastly approaching. This war, America and Britain, let me say it like this. This war will be between Master Fard Muhammad and Iran and Syria will go to war with the dragon, which is the House of Saud, Britain and America, false Israel, and these nations that are in this Abraham Accord. Michael and his angels, let me say it like that, which is Master Fard Muhammad, Iran, and Syria. So, when this war takes place, gotta sum it up. When this war takes place, Britain and America is going to be kicked out of the Middle East. The House of Saud is going to be taken down. False Israel is going to be sieged and then destroyed, which is going to be the shock. All those nations that decided to go to war with Satan, understand it. They're going to get what is due to them as well. This is called the abomination of desolation, which is going to be the shock of the hour when you see this, because it's going to shock the world to see America, Britain, Saudi Arabia, false Israel, and all those with them be stopped by the Republic of Iran, Syria, and their allies. It's going to shock the world. And that shock to know that Big Bad America, Britain, and all these characters have been taken down by Iran is going to shock the world. And when you see false Israel taken out, you know the world's going to know for sure who the true seed of Abraham is. So we're in this time of the abomination of desolation that is sparked from the JCPOA. The JCPOA is the spark that is going to ignite the war in the Middle East and heaven. Is the JCPOA. They're not going to go into compliance, back into compliance of the JCPOA, which is going to cause this war to ignite, and this will be the play out that will, the fallout will be America, Britain, the House of Saudi Arabia, false Israel, and all those in this Abraham Accord will be taken out, kicked out, and taken out. And it will be the shock of the hour. So that's the take from the unsealed scriptures of what's taking place and how everything is shaping up, and what the take is from Biden's trip and his to the Middle East, even trying to get lower gas rates. It all boils down to this is what you should be expecting. And with that, I'm going to bring this segment of Up Late Night with Malik Hodge to a close. Thank you for watching. I'll be here at the same time tomorrow. And I'll greet you as I came in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu Alaikum.